Elizabeth, you've made me the happiest man alive these past 3 years. I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me. Will you marry me?" Her reaction wasn't what I had envisioned. She froze, her eyes darting around the restaurant as though searching for someone or something. Then she let out a nervous laugh and said, "Is this a joke?" I was taken aback. This wasn't the joyful yes I had been expecting. "No, it's not a joke," I said, still kneeling, the ring box open in my hand. She hesitated, biting her lip, before finally blurting out, "I can't do this." Time seemed to stand still. The restaurant, the other diners, the soft background music. It all faded as her words echoed in my mind. I slowly stood, trying to process what was happening. "What do you mean you can't do this?" I asked, my voice trembling. She looked down, avoiding my gaze. "This isn't what I wanted. I told you I wanted a grand proposal with everyone there. This doesn't feel right." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're saying no because of how I proposed." "It's not just that," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't think we're on the same page about what we want in life. I've been feeling this way for a while, but I didn't know how to bring it up." Her words hit me like a freight train. She hadn't just turned down my proposal. She was breaking up with me, right there in the middle of what I thought would be one of the happiest moments of our lives. I paid the bill in silence, my hands trembling as I slid my credit card to the waiter. We left the restaurant together, but didn't exchange a single word on the way back to her apartment. When we arrived, she asked me to come inside so we could talk, but I couldn't. I needed space, needed time to think. Over the next few days, the reality of our breakup began to sink in. She called me a few times, wanting to explain, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. What was there to explain? She didn't want to marry me. She didn't even want to be with me anymore. I spent weeks replaying that night in my mind, analyzing every detail, questioning where I went wrong. Was it the proposal, or was it something deeper? I felt blindsided, betrayed, and completely heartbroken. Then, about a month after our breakup, I heard through mutual friends that she was seeing someone new, a co-worker of hers. Apparently, they had been spending time together for months, long before our relationship ended. That revelation hit me even harder than the breakup itself. Had she been cheating on me? Was this the real reason she ended things? I couldn't bring myself to confront her about it. Instead, I buried myself in work, trying to distract myself from the pain. But the questions lingered. Was I not enough? Did she ever really love me? Or was I just a placeholder until someone better came along? As the weeks turned into months, I slowly started to rebuild my life. I leaned on my friends and family for support and threw myself into hobbies I had neglected during our relationship. I even started therapy, which helped me unpack not only the breakup, but also my own insecurities and fears. It wasn't easy, but I began to see the breakup as a blessing in disguise. Yes, it hurt deeply, but it also forced me to confront some hard truths about myself and what I wanted in a partner. I realized that I had been compromising too much of myself to make the relationship work. I wanted someone who would appreciate quiet, intimate moments just as much as grand, public gestures. Someone who would respect my introverted nature instead of trying to change it. Someone who would love me for who I am, not who they wanted me to be. About 6 months after the breakup, I ran into her at a coffee shop. She was with her new boyfriend, the co-worker, and they looked happy. She saw me too and walked over to say hello. "How have you been?" she asked, her tone cautious. "I've been good," I replied. Keeping my voice steady, I replied, "I've been okay." She hesitated, then said, "I'm sorry for how things ended between us. You didn't deserve that." I nodded, not trusting myself to say anything more. By that point, I didn't need her apology. I had already made peace with what happened. Looking back now, I'm grateful for the experience. It taught me so much about love, relationships, and myself. I'm still single, but I'm okay with that. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. The truth is, sometimes the person you think is your forever turns out to be a lesson instead. And that's okay. Each step, no matter how painful, brings you closer to the person and the life you're meant to have. And who knows? Maybe one day, I'll meet someone who makes me feel the way I did that first night with my ex, someone who will truly be my forever. But until then, I'm focused on being the best version of myself. Because I deserve that much. Life goes on, and so will I. Elizabeth, you're the love of my life. I can't imagine spending my future with anyone else. Will you marry me? The words left my mouth trembling with anticipation, my heart pounding as I knelt before her with the ring box open. Months of planning, saving, and rehearsing had all led to this moment. In my mind, it was perfect. A quiet, intimate dinner at the restaurant where we had our first date, just the two of us. For a moment, her expression froze. I braced myself, thinking she was overwhelmed with emotion. But then, something I hadn't expected happened. She shook her head slightly and said, "No, not like this." The words hung in the air, heavy and confusing. "What do you mean, not like this?" I asked, struggling to keep the hurt from creeping into my voice. She hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine. "I always imagined my proposal differently," she said at last, her tone hesitant yet firm. "You know, something big, with our friends and family there. Maybe in a public place, with everything being filmed. This just isn't what I pictured." Her words felt like a dagger to my chest. I had spent weeks crafting this moment, thinking about what would make it special for us as a couple. "I thought this would be more meaningful," I said quietly, swallowing hard. "I wanted this to be about us. I even planned a celebration with everyone in a few days." She shrugged, seemingly unmoved. "But you should have known how important the proposal itself was to me. I've talked about this before." Something shifted in me then. This wasn't just about the proposal. It was about who we were and what we wanted. In that moment, it became painfully clear that our visions of love and partnership were worlds apart. I stood up, the weight of her rejection pressing down on me. Slowly and deliberately, I slipped the ring back into my pocket. "I hope you get your dream proposal one day," I said softly, forcing the words past a lump in my throat. Then, without another glance, I walked away. The days that followed were chaotic. I texted my family and close friends to let them know what had happened. She said no, I wrote bluntly, and we're over. I didn't want to go into details, but word spread quickly. Everyone had an opinion. Some thought I had overreacted. A proposal shouldn't define a relationship, one friend said. Maybe she just got overwhelmed, another suggested. You should give her time to explain. Others, however, firmly stood by my side. If that's how she reacted, she doesn't deserve you, my brother said. A proposal isn't about theatrics. It's about love. Meanwhile, she began flooding my phone with calls and messages. Please, let's talk, she begged in one voicemail. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just caught off guard. Even her best friend reached out to me. She's devastated, she said. She feels terrible and wishes she'd reacted differently. You know how much she cares about you. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about the proposal. This was a culmination of years of compromises that had always felt one-sided. As the initial sting of her rejection began to fade, I started reflecting on our relationship. With every memory that resurfaced, I saw things in a new light. There was a time I got a promotion at work, a milestone I was incredibly proud of. I remember calling her the moment I found out, excited to share the news. She congratulated me, but within minutes, the conversation shifted. She started talking about how she had pushed me to work harder and how she deserved credit for my success. At the time, I brushed it off, but now it felt telling. Or the countless times I shared something personal, something that mattered deeply to me, only for her to steer the conversation back to her own struggles or accomplishments. What I had once seen as confidence now seemed more like an inability to let me have my moment. Even her dreams for our future suddenly felt less like dreams we shared and more like a script she had written with herself as a star. She would talk endlessly about her wedding dress, the perfect venue, and the guest list, but she never once asked what I envisioned for our big day. It became clear that, in her eyes, I wasn't an equal partner. I was a supporting character in her story, and yet I had stayed. I had convinced myself that these things didn't matter, that her enthusiasm and ambition were just part of what made her who she was. But the proposal was different. That was supposed to be a moment for us, and she had turned it into something all about her. What shocked me most was how she handled the breakup publicly. A few days after I ended things, she started posting videos of herself crying on social media, talking about how heartbroken she was. But everything about those videos felt staged. Her hair was always perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, and the lighting soft and flattering. Who has the energy to stage their heartbreak like that? Meanwhile, I was barely holding it together. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and couldn't face the barrage of messages and comments from people who had heard about the breakup. Some comments were sympathetic, but others were brutal. "You're heartless," one person wrote. "She clearly loves you. How could you walk away like that?" I wanted to scream that they didn't understand, that this wasn't about a single moment, but about years of feeling like I was never enough. A week after the breakup, I agreed to meet her one last time. I told myself it was for closure, but deep down, I think a part of me hoped she would show me a side of her I hadn't seen before, a side that cared about us. We met at a small cafe. As soon as I saw her, I could tell she had rehearsed what to say. Her words were polished, but they lacked sincerity. "You just don't understand how important this was to me," she said. She spoke with a tone that was firm but lacked any real apology. "The proposal is supposed to be magical. You could still make it up to me, you know. I deserve the proposal I've always dreamed of." Her words confirmed my deepest fear. She hadn't reflected on what had happened or considered how I might have felt. This wasn't about miscommunication or a momentary lapse in judgment. This was who she was. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice steady but resolute, "but this isn't going to work. I need a partner who values me as much as I value them. And this isn't that." I walked out of that cafe feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. It was over, for good this time. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding myself. I submitted a transfer request at work and began making plans to move to a new city. It wasn't just about escaping the memories of our relationship. It was about starting fresh and creating a life that felt like my own. I spent more time with friends and family, leaning on them for support. My brother, in particular, became my rock, constantly reminding me that it was okay to put myself first. As the weeks turned into months, I began to feel a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. For so long, I had been consumed with trying to make her happy, often at the expense of my own happiness. Now, I was finally learning to prioritize myself. Looking back, I don't regret proposing to her, nor do I regret walking away. Both decisions taught me valuable lessons about love, partnership, and self-worth. I now understand that love isn't just about grand gestures or fulfilling someone else's expectations. It's about mutual respect, understanding, and valuing each other for who we truly are. While the pain of that chapter in my life lingered for a while, it ultimately pushed me to grow and redefine what I wanted in a relationship and in myself. The experience didn't break me, it shaped me. And for that, I am grateful that I've come to realize that love isn't about grand gestures or picture-perfect moments. It's about mutual respect, understanding, and a shared willingness to grow together. Love is about being with someone who sees you as an equal, not as a supporting character in their carefully curated life. To everyone who supported me during this journey, thank you. Your advice, encouragement, and understanding have meant everything to me. And to anyone reading this who feels stuck in a one-sided relationship, know this. Your feelings matter. Your dreams, happiness, and voice are just as important as your partner's. Don't settle for anything less than what you deserve. As for me, I remain hopeful for the future. I know that one day, I'll meet someone who values true partnership as much as I do. Someone who wants to build a life together, not just follow a pre-written script. Until then, I'm focusing on becoming the best version of myself. Because in the end, love isn't about the perfect proposal or the perfect wedding. It's about finding someone who makes every moment, big or small, feel meaningful. That's the kind of love I'm waiting for. Sometimes, life teaches us tough lessons. Walking away from a situation where you're not valued can be one of the hardest but most liberating decisions you'll ever make. If this story resonated with you, or if you faced a similar experience, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your stories and insights might help someone else who is navigating the same challenges. Before you leave, don't forget to show your support by giving this story a thumbs up if it touched your heart. It helps this platform grow and reach more people who might need a little inspiration. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We share stories like this all the time about love, heartbreak, redemption, and everything in between. Whether you're here for inspiration, entertainment, or a moment of escape, we've got something just for you. Feel free to share this story with your friends and family, especially those who love thought-provoking stories. Who knows? It might spark a meaningful conversation or help someone see their own life from a new perspective. Thank you for being part of this community. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to share more stories with you. Until next time, take care and always choose what's best for your happiness and peace of mind. See you in the next story.